back to Screen Speak. It is the podcast that is all about movies, life, and so much more. It's me, Jordan Anderson, the same guy that's been running the podcast the whole time, but I'm doing it again. And this time I have with me once again Bruce. He's back. You probably last remember him from, I believe, Tremors, not Tremors 2. If for some reason I thought Tremors 2, but Tremors 1. We talked about that, and then the Batman, I think, previously. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, thank you for having me.
What's been new with you before we get into this crazy ass movie known as Starship Troopers?
Not much. Getting ready to enter my senior year of university, and then I'm done.
Is that are you starting like when I guess like the traditional school season starts, like mid to late August?
Yep.
So
22 August.
that's very soon.
It is very soon.
Are you
And I'm
gonna be
looking forward to
busier?
it.
Well, I was gonna say, are you gonna be busy as hell? Like, I
Not
mean,
really, man. I have a lot of writing classes, which are usually very easy for me. It's the other stuff that's a pain in the ass. But
such
uh, the,
as.
the business side of like I do have one non-org business management course in my senior year that I'm not really looking forward to. That's the kind of
Right.
doctors don't sign up to be paperwork pushers, but it's part of the job as well, so they don't get sued.
Yep, that
So
makes
it's
sense.
not that that's a complete correlation, but yeah, the
Well, it's just like
management side of it.
it's just like, people that want to be cops. That they have that line in the Departed where it's just like you want to be a cop, or you want to appear to be a cop, like, do all the flashy parts of the job,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Um, no, that's cool. I'll be curious to see how your senior year goes, and you're still working on some shorts, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I
When's your
should be
next
doing
one
some
planned?
filming. Oh, I'm gonna save it for coursework, of course,
Mm-hmm.
so it actually count for something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I'm sure you could like do them in your spare time, but then you don't get like extra credit, I suppose.
Nah, definitely not.
Okay, so I'm ready to talk about this movie, Starship Troopers, which this was your suggestion.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell me why you suggested it first off?
Now, keep in mind, let's put some context around this, that I hadn't seen it since around its release. I was in high school at the time,
Okay.
20 plus years ago. And when we sat down and watched Tremors, I just felt like it reminded me, it sort of inferred, because I hadn't seen Tremors. And the
Mm-hmm.
closest thing I can think of it was Starship Troopers. I feel like there's some connective tissue there.
Makes sense. I mean, they are both. I mean, you could definitely say B movies because they have big monsters. Science fiction, actually, to an extent. Obviously, Starship Troopers more because it's like set in space and there's the bug planet and everything like that. But yeah, no, I could definitely see the connection there for sure. Now, is Starship Troopers a movie that like when you first watched it, like you fell in love with it and like you appreciated its charm, or were you like, this is just a big stupid silly bug movie, and then only later did you kind of fall into like the cult following of it?
Well, I can't say I fell into the cult following because, again, I haven't seen it in 20 years until now.
Hmm.
But I just remember it as being just this fun, silly B movie.
Yeah. I mean that's pretty much what it is. Directed by the great I never say his name right. Paul Verhoeven.
Verhoeven.
Yeah, because he's French,
He's
isn't he?
Dutch.
Or
He's
Dutch?
Dutch.
Okay,
Yeah.
I knew he wasn't American by any means, so I was like, I'll just call him Paul. I can't pronounce his last name to save my life.
That's all good.
But no, so for people that haven't seen this movie, it did come out in 1997. I'm just gonna rattle off the synopsis here quick, just in the off chance that you haven't heard of it, because I would still say this movie holds cult status. It's not, like I feel like you're in the movies and like you like, B movies especially, you'll know it. But if you're just like general mass population, you might not know what this is. So this is the official synopsis according to Google. So we got, in the distant future, the Earth is at war with a race of giant alien insects. Little is known about the bugs except that they are intent on the eradication of all human life and also apparently like to suck on their brains. But there was a time before the war, a mobile infantry. Yeah, a mobile infantry travels to distant alien planets to take the war to the bugs. They are a ruthless enemy with only one mission: survival of their species, no matter what the cost. Did you like? I'm just looking at this too. It says this movie had $105 million budget.
I would as
105.
I would assume at that time that was pretty significant.
I mean, I feel like it is. I mean, maybe not today for like a movie like this, but I feel like that's a pretty big price tag. And some people like I think shit on the special effects of this movie. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah,
But
I don't
don't you
know.
think that special effects are intentionally bad?
I think so. I think
Yeah,
so because the movie's like also supposed to be. It's one of the points I was going to bring up. Like the movie's supposed to be very satirical. I think, or at least that's the
it's.
vibe I got from it.
I
Um,
think reading any interview, and this is true of Verhoeven throughout his career, not just this film,
mhm.
but whether it's RoboCop and like his future vision of how the police force was going to be utilized, Starship Troopers, I feel like this is about how fascism starts. And
Okay.
then I don't know if you've seen Benedetta, his last film, but that
No,
one,
I have not.
it's a very satirical take on martyrdom and religion and how religion kind of starts. So I
Interesting.
think he has a track record of just being like, hey, here, let's put up a mirror on this one aspect of our culture and like really examine it and parse it out.
Makes sense. Um, and we'll get to that in a second. But before we do, I was just curious. I'm assuming you knew this was based off a book.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Did you know anything about the book? Have you read the book?
I've never read the book and I'm never going to. I don't want to get too. We're going to have to get into politics because of this movie,
I
the
kind of, I
nature
kind
of the
of,
film.
I kind of figured
But
that.
the book was written by like a Republican who believed like in this sort of there's a line in this film that's from the book as well where it's like you could be a civilian or you could be a citizen. So this idea that
Like
to be a
military
true
service obligation.
yeah, exactly, to
Yeah,
be a true citizen you need to like buy into like the government's you know mottos and like really serve your country. So and I don't.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to comment. In doing my research and prep for this movie, I was reading some other reviews and Roger Ebert, the famed critic, he had a
Mhm.
nice line in his review where he was saying how the author writes as if he's like an 11-year-old boy, playing with action figures for the first time and just like boom, boom, and bang, 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 and like it's not very like he was kind of hard on him, saying that he's not like the most like articulate, auteur of an
Uh,
author. He just kind of, makes big explosions in his books and things like that. And he also mentioned the point you made about the pretty kind of narrow-minded political side of it, where it's like that's you're not really open up to like maybe more I'm not going to say this correctly, but more
nuanced,
yes.
nuanced view of like your quote unquote opposition.
Yeah. So I don't think I would ever go and read the book, though I'm sure it would be interesting. Just because I think anytime there's a movie that's based off a book, it's interesting to do a comparison and to see like what translated over, what got left out. But for a movie like this, I think I appreciated that Paul brought his. I definitely think he brought his style to the movie. I mean, it felt like one of his films. At least that's my take on it.
Oh, I agree 100%. No, it totally fits into his filmography.
And it has the over the top violence, the kind of crappy makeup effects that he likes in his movies sometimes, but it
Yeah.
totally fits with the campiness of the whole thing. At least I felt that way.
And he's really
Um,
good at casting just beautiful people. And
yes.
and I'm including the male lead on that. Like I don't know
Dude,
what
he's
happened
got
to
a
that
sick
guy.
jawline. That
Yeah, that
Casper,
is a
was it
good looking
Casper
son of a
Van Dien?
bitch.
Is that what his name
Yeah, yeah,
is? Yeah, yeah. That guy, he has the chiseled jawline. He looks solid in that
he
movie.
looks like Superman.
He does.
I
Did he ever get offered the part? I don't think he ever did.
don't know. Well, I guess my curiosity with him is what happened to his career because I thought he did an excellent job in this film. Like
Yeah, no, I have not seen a bunch of him. He actually he was on a podcast that I listened to. Do you know the Schmoes know?
Mm-mm.
Like Christian Harloff and Mark Ellis. They're based out of California. They're both comedians. They do like entertainment correspondence and talk movies. They do a lot of different things, but they had him on like a while back, and I can't remember what the hell he was on for, but I think he's still working. Like I think he gets steady work. He's just not mainstream,
Yeah,
you
not
know.
main one. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. So I'm curious because this is the subject I really wanted to get into with this was the propaganda aspect of it because that was something I noticed like kind of right from the get-go is like they open even with like that super cheesy like yeah, you can make a difference, you can do it, enlist today,
Yeah.
painting the military into something that it's not. I don't know if the movie's trying to say something about that necessarily right from the get-go, but as someone, if it's okay, I can say that
Yeah.
you were in the services at one point.
Yep.
Um, what do you think on the subject of just military propaganda and what this movie was saying about it?
Well, this is the most interesting part of the film for me because I saw it. It came out in '97. I saw it around that time. I joined in 2001. September 11th happened while I was in boot camp.
Okay.
And it's funny that this movie predates September 11th and that it speaks to it so much. And Verhoeven, again, just has this track record of doing this, whether it's Robocop or this or
Hmm.
Total Recall. Um, yeah, just the fact that he was able to predict the sort of bifurcation of the media.
Now, what
And
does
like,
that mean? What does that mean?
well, we only have two political sides now. Like, not that we didn't before, but like
Right.
it's just getting worse, right? We're getting more distance from each other. We're not able to speak to the middle much anymore,
Hmm.
which is how Trump came into power because we're just
Hmm.
everything is just so politicized. Like, we can't talk about anything in this country without it being on one side or the other. You got to wear the jersey. You're
Yeah.
either a Man City fan or you're a Liverpool fan or you're a Yankees or a Red Sox. It doesn't matter. Like, and it doesn't matter what your side says or does. You have to stand by it. Like, that's just where we are right now.
Hmm.
And I feel like that sort of, I think that began and became more harsh and divided lines over September 11th and a rhetoric around September 11th and how to respond to it and whether we should go into Iraq, whether we should go into Afghanistan. And we just become more and more divided as a country. And I think that this film speaks to that, even though it wasn't intending to do so, because it predates
Hmm.
September 11th by 5 years. So it's just so ahead of its time. Like, like you're either with us or against us. Bush said that after September 11th, like
Yeah.
when he was deciding to infiltrate Iraq, like you're with us or you're against us or you're with the enemy. Like that
Yeah.
kind of
It
like,
pretty black and white terms.
yeah, and simplifying the narrative as much as possible for your own benefit. Like, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? So this movie really speaks to that, and I don't think it's on the side of any of its characters as far as the politics are concerned. I think
Hmm.
tonally he's making a. I think it's pretty definitive by the tone of the film that he's poking fun at this.
Now, how would you say he's poking fun at it? Like,
Oh, just how simple-minded everyone is about everything, and like
yeah.
there's just something about the tone from the beginning to the end, like you said, the way the film opens. Like,
Yep.
it's just like, oh, look at this, look at how like patriotism is masturbation. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just sort of like it's a
Yeah.
little bit too much. It's a little bit over the top. Like, and it's
Hmm.
presented that way in the film.
I would agree with that, especially when you see that a lot of their military strategy behind fighting the bugs is mostly just get the biggest gun possible and spray as many rounds into it as aggressively as possible and like go America. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
got that kind of energy behind it, and it's like there's no other strategy. It's like no, just big macho. Let's go in and just waste everything.
Or at least, that's on the surface that's the case.
Yes.
I think Neil Patrick Harris' character is really interesting.
Well, because he's the psychic of the movie.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The psychic of the movie, but he actually uses, our main characters as pawns in his own game to
Hmm.
beat the big boss or whatever. Like,
Yeah. That makes sense.
and I don't think that's any different than what we did with our troops. I mean, I'm not going to comment on whether it was necessary or not. That's not what
Of
I'm
like
trying to
going
say.
into like Iraq and all that.
No, actually, I'm going further back than that. Like with
Mm.
the Normandy invasion,
Oh wow.
and knowing that we're going to lose like a huge percentage of our forces to this one invasion, but that it
Hmm.
was necessary to break the lines, right? So, and Neil Patrick Harris kind of comments on that. Like they know that he used them. The
Hmm.
main character knows that he was used by Neil Patrick Harris as a pawn. So, like as a strategy to
Yeah.
get in, infiltrate the enemy, and get to the big bad and understand how he ticks.
That is actually a really interesting thought behind just like the military propaganda side. Because I'm not somebody that's enlisted, but I still have all the respect in the world for people that do, and they have their reasons for doing it. But I've seen like movies like like Jarhead. That's just one that comes to mind where the grunts are kind of talking about like, well, I don't know if this is right or not, and like some of like the kind of more like real guerrilla, just like we just want combat, we don't give a shit. They're just like, who cares? It's like some politician's war, whatever. I just get to shoot some shit, whatever. Who cares? But I've always been interested that there's still, I think, a number of people that, like you said, they enlist for sort of like that this vision they have of patriotism and them doing right by their country, but it's like they don't even really question what they're doing. Like they just kind of do it because they're like, it's for the greater good, or like it'll look good, or whatever, I'll get to travel. Like I don't know if they're always doing it for the reasons that they should be, but that's just my perspective. I have no idea. I'm not in the military, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's complex.
Yeah, of course it
And
is.
as someone that spent 20 years in the Air Force, like it's rare that you speak to someone that has like one single reason for joining the service and serving. Like
Hmm.
it's a humans are complex, right? And with this film, he's not trying to present you a complex characters. He's presenting you with how he sees it. Um, like, and it's mostly the satirical stuff is mostly aimed at the people at the top. It's not aimed at the soldiers on the ground.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and that's no different than how it is in real life. Honestly, like you should never question a soldier's motivation. Like they're just trying to serve their country. It's how they're used.
Yeah, and I mean that's actually a better way to put it because like you said, they're not necessarily going in with like, bad intentions. They're not trying to do anything bad. They're trying to, do right and
Mhm.
protect the country and do what they think they need to do. But yes, it is a bit of a problem, and historically speaking, I'm sure there's patterns where you could point to this and be like, "Oh yeah, it's been done time and time again," where like you said, a person at the top that's not on the front lines, they're not there. They don't give a
No.
shit. Like they're just like,
Yeah.
whatever. Like we throw enough, basically meat bags at this thing. Whatever. Like, it'll make a
Exactly.
dent. That's not good.
Exactly. Meat bags is exactly how you should describe this film.
Especially in the one part where like don't they say like what is it like 100,000 die? Like they're
Yeah.
just dead.
Yeah. They're just gone. Yeah. Eradicated.
Yeah.
And the solution to every problem is to just shoot more bullets, which is not effective in this movie. But that's
No.
part of the joke as well, right?
Well, that's part of the satire of it, which I
Yeah.
think satire just on that subject, it's tricky for a movie to pull it off well.
Mhm.
At least in my opinion. I mean, I actually like this sound. I'm gonna sound like an idiot. I had to like look up like the actual meaning just to get the exact correct definition of this. Uh, According to what I have, it's just saying that satire is the use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose or criticize people's stupidity of vices, particularly in the context of contemporary politics and other topical issues.
Perfect.
And I'm like, that's pretty well said.
Yeah.
But what did you think of the use of satire in this movie?
Oh, tonally, it's incredible. Like, I don't think that it wavers. I don't think that he misses a beat, but that's just my opinion. I don't know. How did you feel about it?
I liked it. I definitely liked it because there's some dark humor in this movie for me anyway, and I'm a person that likes their dark humor, so I enjoy seeing it when it's done right. I don't think this movie does shy away from, like you said, kind of pointing to the top of the decision making tree, so to speak, for like
Uh,
how these conflicts get decided upon and like who's ultimately presses the orders for that. I think the movie was interesting about that. But I also I like the characters. I mean, like it's a pretty good cast. I was looking at the cast of this movie too. I mean, well, Denise Richards, you could argue her acting's pretty terrible, but um, she smiles a lot. I noticed like that was a thing. I'm like, she's always smiling in like so many of these scenes, and I can't figure out why.
she's so
Um,
beautiful. I can't even like knock her for it.
no, dude, I'll be honest. Like as an adolescent young man, not in this movie, but like what is it? The World Is Not Enough. When she plays Christmas Jones or whatever, I was like, damn. She was she was well, I'll just say she was in her prime at
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah.
But
I
no,
think she does. I think she serves the purpose she's supposed to serve in this film. I don't think she's necessarily. It's sort of like when P.T. Anderson uses Adam Sandler in a film. Like it's not
mhm.
about Adam Sandler. It's about the context around the actor and that filmmaker being at the top of his game, right? So I think Verhoeven, like, he knows what he's doing when he casts these people. Like
hmm
Casper, what's his name? Casper Van Dien or
Casper
something.
Van Dien, yeah,
I mean, we're talking about this is the biggest film of that dude's career, as far as I know.
I think
But
so.
and it was just a movie built around like Verhoeven knows what he's doing. Like everyone's cast really well. So
No,
like whether
sorry,
they're
go ahead.
whether they're not delivering like Tom Cruise and Magnolia performances or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But they
hmm
serve what the purpose they're supposed to serve.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I think in a movie like this, the cast is, I mean, they're not meant to like give out like Oscar-worthy performances. And I'm not saying that a movie that's not delivering Oscar needs to like, settle for less or something like that. But the movie as a whole is definitely trying to serve a larger purpose. It's not just focused like it's not like a deep character study. It's not there's not
No,
nothing like that. I mean, there's actually there's an ensemble of a lot of good character actors in this movie. Michael Ironside, he was with Paul Verhoeven, Jesus, on Total Recall.
yeah,
I also liked I did like Neil Patrick Harris, and I don't actually like him in a lot of movies, but that's just like I don't know, something about him just doesn't always work for me. But that like I'm subjective to it. I don't judge him for it. It's just
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's just my take on it. I love Clancy Brown. I don't think that guy gets enough appreciation. He's like what is he, like the drill sergeant, like in the movie
Yep.
that kind of puts him through boot camp. I
Hmm.
noticed that Amy Smart is in the movie briefly. I don't think she's in it very long. And then of course you got the Busey family tree, Jake Busey, son of the late. I
Uh,
was about to say Gary Busey's dead, but no, Gary Busey's still very much alive. But I liked a lot of the cast in the movie. I mean, they were fun. I can't deny that the cast in the movie is fun to watch, and I think they enjoyed making the movie. I think that's clear. And I do
yeah, yeah,
enjoy that they get sprayed up with the bug blood like often. And it's just dripping
yeah,
everywhere on
yeah,
them. Um, but I noticed also like when watching the movie that it took them a while actually before they really like got into the real bug shooting part. Like a good hour of the movie spent on them basically preparing to go off
yeah.
world. And as you know, Bruce, I love my hypotheticals on the podcast. And I'm
Yeah.
just I'm just thinking like if you yourself, there's a bug invasion or something going on, how would you prepare? What would you do to go off world? And would you go off world to go shoot some big ass bugs?
Well, we have a precedent for this, right? Because I did join when September 11th happened, and I did serve. I was 18 and I didn't have any perspective, and I thought I was doing the right thing. But my life has already been written, in as far as that regard is concerned. So we know what I would have done.
Yeah, that makes sense. But like
Yeah.
I don't think you did it though. Obviously, I don't think you saw like some patriotic ad to like make you go do it, right? I mean, you
No,
probably saw the
no,
events and were just pretty much outraged
no.
as
My
like,
grandfather's one grandfather was a Marine and one was an Army Ranger. So I just come from like a history of serving,
right.
and I felt like it was something I had to do.
I mean, it sounds like you're glad you did it. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously,
no,
I don't
yeah.
think you're not, you won't be who you are without the experiences that you had.
Oh, 100%. And, again, like the military is not okay, even if you don't agree with like the wars that we've been in the last 20 years, not everything we do is bad. So when I was in Japan, there was a tsunami that hit Japan, and then there was a tsunami that hit Indonesia, and we helped serve both of those functions. Like we helped deliver food, drop off food from planes. Like we have a humanitarian side as well.
Hmm.
Now you could argue it's sort of like when missionaries go out to like feed the poor, right? There's a motivation, right? So maybe there's that. Like I don't want to be completely naive,
Right.
but we do some good things. There's some things I feel good about during my service, my years served.
I mean, shit, I think that's good. I mean, you even talked about military does humanitarian stuff. I mean, they're not literally just there to be like the Starship Troopers and just go blast everything,
Yeah,
especially
yeah, yeah.
now. And in fact, that's probably less and less because there's all these drone strikes now, which
True.
totally unrelated. But did you see that that
Yep.
guy got blasted in half from Al
Yeah.
Qaeda or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
know. I don't know all the details for that, but I mean, I guess that's
Drone
probably
strike, CIA.
a CIA drone strike. Ooh,
Hmm.
interesting. That's crazy. I need to find a movie to talk about drone strikes because I have a lot of thoughts on those. But
There's some good ones.
there's one with I haven't seen it. It's with Ethan Hawke. It's an independent movie. I think Alan Rickman even has a brief part in it before he passed away, but I can't think of what the hell the name is. I know it's written by the guy who did like Gattaca and Lord of War, Andrew Nicole, if I'm saying his name right. But I can't. I think it's just called Good Kill. I think that's actually the name of it, but I haven't seen it.
That's interesting. I haven't either.
Anyways, I have something else I wanted to bring up on here. You brought up Denise Richards and her being, well, nice looking. That's the way I'll put it. They fight over her a lot. There's a lot of
Yeah.
fighting over her, and I'm just thinking, like, I'm trying. I mean, I'm not gonna like bring up like my wife in this or anything like that, but I'm trying to think like I've never been like in a fight over a woman with like another male that I am, threatened by or anything like that. But I was just curious about like you, like, have you ever had to fight for a woman from another dude?
No, I don't think so.
But would
Uh,
you do it if it was Denise Richards?
I cannot answer. I'm gonna have to plead the fifth on that one.
I was gonna say
I'm
I'm
gonna get
trying
in trouble.
it's
I
just
plead
a
the fifth.
movie,
I
man.
plead the fifth, sir. I don't know.
That's a smart response. And that actually makes me ask, does she listen to the podcast?
She might. I don't
I'm gonna
want to
say
take any chances.
you never know.
I feel like
We,
I'm answering the question without answering the question. Right?
yeah, it was funny. Have you seen Parks and Rec?
I have. Yeah.
Ron Swanson has an episode where, he's saying he's like the only witness I like to be is a hostile witness. So he's like, I'll just intend on answering every question with a question.
So the question is, would you?
Okay. No, I didn't think I'd get a response from you out of that, but I'll tell you right now because Isola, I'm sorry, Isola, I'm saying your name. They don't care. Um, I've never fought over a woman. Denise Richards would certainly make the case, probably because of reasons. Um, but I don't know. I thought the reasons of them fighting over the woman, like fighting over her, like they're valid. She enlisted, went into a separate route for her training. Like he couldn't. The main guy Casper, he was too like dumb to qualify, right? Isn't that like the whole thing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they
Yeah.
kind of set that up with the Neil Patrick Harris card game thing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's not
That's
supposed to
right.
be very bright.
No, 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 no.
And I don't want to give short shift to the character Dizzy Flores. She's gorgeous as well. They
That's
treat
uh that's the one that's like I mean I shouldn't say like oh that's the one that's like trying to jump all over Casper Van Dien like throughout the
yeah,
whole
yeah,
movie, but yeah, she wanted him bad. That's for
yeah.
sure.
And the movie treats her like a consolation prize, and she is far from it.
How
So
so?
she's beautiful.
I mean she is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Why is Denise Richards getting all the love here? Dina Meyer is gorgeous.
Is that the actress's name? I need to look
Yeah,
her up here. Let me see.
and
Oh yeah, I see her right here. Yeah, she still looks good right now. I shouldn't say too much. But
And as previously stated, to keep the sexes equal, Casper Van Dien is a good looking son of a bitch too. So
that's true. That's a very good point. I also noticed when watching this movie, they have I don't remember when it is in the movie. They have co-ed showers. Just
they
like,
do.
oh, I'm like, that's interesting. I don't think that would work, like, at all. But
Well, that's another way of Verhoeven like looking into the future somewhat with like trans people being allowed to serve in the military, and then
oh,
Trump deciding, no, that's not right, and then without talking to anyone in the chain of command overnight, saying that trans people could no longer serve, even though they were already in.
yeah. What happened after that?
I don't know. I think somebody in the upper military echelon, the brass, like told him, "Hey man, calm the fuck down. They're already here, dude."
Yeah, because I was gonna
One
say, I
thing I
mean,
noticed
like,
about the military brass during Trump's 4 years is that he would get ignored a lot. Like, you know,
I need the. I don't really know a ton about like how he interacted with the military. Though, of course, if you hear him, I mean, he's the best at everything.
there's
He
no
he.
military brass that really like him. I can tell you that. None that I recall. Even the guy that was in charge of the Marine Corps, and I'm forgetting his name right now, and I shouldn't. Sorry about that. But he stepped down during Trump's presidency, and this is a guy who considers himself a Republican.
Oh,
So
yeah. So
it's
he's
like,
like defecting.
yeah, he quit. 4-star general in the Marine Corps quit.
It's not that I don't know why like the name's coming to me like that Michael Flynn guy, but that's definitely not him, I don't think.
No, that's not him. I think that was the guy in charge of the CIA.
Yes, I think you're correct on that. Okay, so back to Starship Troopers here. So, what are just your thoughts on the bugs? I mean everything from like the effects, like their anatomy, to like how badly they exploded, them sucking on brain,
I
the
thought
whole
it all
deal.
worked, man. I thought it all stood up. Like usually, okay, for Tremors, for example, I remember saying during the podcast, like I didn't think the special effects held up very well, and they wouldn't, right? It's been 30 plus years,
Right.
but in this case, I don't know. I felt like they stood up relatively well. I
I
mean,
thought they did.
yeah, I mean it's clear it's from 20 years ago, but even still, like I thought it looked pretty good.
I thought so. I liked the excessive amount of blood from them. I did like how they eventually. I mean, because at first, like they kind of just seemed like just like a big wave of stuff to get shot at. But then eventually, they start introducing like different types of them. They have the soldier ones. They have, I think, there's a few that fly. I think in the
Yep,
movie, and of course, they have like the
fucking
big.
terrifying, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, I was gonna say I can already tell you right now. I mean, if you don't know me well enough, Bruce, on the subject of bugs, I am a baby around bugs. I don't
Yeah,
like them. Like
they're
we
pretty
have right,
disgusting.
dude, we have right now like these like cicada killers. They're supposed to be harmless, but they look freaking huge. And so like I like as I'm like going out of my condo, like I like run past them to like avoid like getting stinged, or like if like they're there, I'll just like stay in the entryway and not come out because I literally am a baby about bugs. So I say that because my ass would not enlist to go off world. Hell no. I don't care how much military propaganda is there. I'm like, I see bug. I'm like, no, nope, someone else is gonna deal with that.
Well,
It
what
ain't gonna
you
be
want
me.
is the Neil Patrick Harris role,
Oh,
where you
actually,
just
yeah, that makes
you
sense.
lead from the back.
Yeah, if I can use my big brain powers, that would certainly help because then I don't have to be on the front line. Because the second one of those things comes close to me, I'm running.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I ain't gonna be brave.
I would
Hell no.
argue a lot of them should have ran when they didn't.
Yeah, they kind of. I don't know. Like, why do you think that is? Like, why? Like, they just like want to be tough. Like they're just trying to,
Well, they're just
not be
trying to put as
cowards.
many bullets in them as they can before they get annihilated.
Yeah, that's true.
But even though the
Um,
bullets were completely ineffective,
did you ever watch any of the follow-up sequels to the movie? Because
I
there's
did
like
not,
it's
and
gone
I
like the
won't.
Tremors route. I've noticed there's like three or four
It
of them now.
it did. No, no, I didn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to talk. Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about the military propaganda side, like the political stuff. I know you have some more thoughts on that.
Uh, I mean, what do you think about the ending? What do you think he's trying to say?
Well, it's sort of it's a little ambiguous, of course, because the war
Oh,
is still.
really?
I mean, I know the war is still going,
Yeah.
obviously, so it's unresolved. A lot of people died,
Uh-huh.
so I don't really think you could even say like the people were victorious, even though like the main cast of characters they live. But well, actually, no, I'm trying to think. They don't all live at the. Who the hell dies at the end? Sorry, like my brain has been.
The other pilot that Denise Richards was being fought over with.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right. I don't know, man. What did you think that it was trying to say?
Oh, for me, it was like a really fine point on like, okay, fascism has arrived. Here's where we are, and this is how it started, and this is how it evolved, and now we're here, and now nothing will be questioned anymore. Like, you know what I mean? That was my take on it. I don't know. Maybe other people have different reads.
Hmm.
Um, we don't watch films in a vacuum, and because I know so much about Verhoeven and his politics,
What
like,
are his politics? I have no idea.
oh well, okay. For one, they were talking about remaking this film during the Trump era, and he was like, "Don't do it." I've heard that they're remaking it. These are his quotes,
Hmm.
roughly. But he was like, "I heard they're remaking it, um, and I heard they want to go back to closer to the book." And he was like, "I think if you do that right now, it's just gonna like, you know, what's the word? You're just gonna encourage the bastards. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
just going to be, he basically said it's just going to be Trump propaganda. And he said he inferred Trump.
Mm.
So like he did not want his movie to be remade at that moment for that.
Yeah. No, yeah, I could see that. I mean,
And
without
that
reading the book.
infers, yeah. And that infers to me, like that puts a fine point on the ending of the film for me. Like, okay, he's basically making a point about fascism and, the military state as it is, and like, okay, maybe it began for the right reasons, but now we're here, and now who's going to question this shit? You know what I mean? Like, who's gonna who's gonna be the resistance? And I don't mean that in a take them down way. Just like
Hmm.
who's gonna question the leaders and hold them accountable, like that kind of thing.
Okay, I got a question for you on the subject of accountability. Just like in my own private circles, the discussions actually come up just like on a number of different other subjects. And I find that when I start to talk with a number of people about it, they don't always know how to define what accountability actually looks like. Because like people love to say it, and I'm not saying that you're just saying it for the sake of saying it, but like if you're taking a look at like the political leaders and who holds them accountable, I mean, what does that look like to you?
Well, for one, I don't think any one person has all the answers.
No,
And
I would also say that's true.
and anyone presenting themselves as having all the answers, we need to question even more than
Yeah,
anyone else.
being
I'm
too
not,
certain about something's kind of it's a little scary.
I don't want to infer uh, what I'm speaking about there, but you can
Hmm.
make an assumption based on the discussion we've had so far.
Right.
But I feel like I trust human beings more when they're less confident than
Hmm.
when they're overly confident, if that makes sense.
It does.
And I just think good leaders and good, not managers, good leaders,
Hmm.
they listen to the panel that they instilled. You need to put people around you that you trust. So you need to put people in place, like the way the Canadian government does it and the British government does it, where it's like, okay, we elected a leader. Now that leader is going to form their cabinet, a group of people that they
Yeah.
trust. It doesn't mean they're going to go unquestioned. Ideally, that leader would put people in his panel that will question him, that
Hmm.
will, you know,
They're not just yes men or women.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like those are the best leaders, the people that, they intentionally want people around them that are going to ask them tough questions that they
Hmm.
may or may not have answers to, but that they're willing to find the answers from someone else and give that person credit for it. Those are
Hmm.
leaders. So, you know, after the last 4 years, where does that leave us? You know what I mean? Like where we don't question authority anymore. That's not good. And it's not about, again, it's not about taking authority out of power per se. It's more about being allowed a seat at the table, being allowed to ask tough questions
Hmm.
and get a response because that's what we deserve.
Yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. I think there's a lot of people, especially nowadays. It's probably been like the case all the time, but especially nowadays, like there's people that are even afraid to ask the questions because of repercussion or not being taken seriously or getting fired or canceled and everything like that. And yeah, I mean, I think if we're just talking on this subject, I want people to feel comfortable to ask those tough questions. And it doesn't mean they need to be punished for asking it. It's good.
No.
Because
Yeah.
anybody that's level headed enough or understands the intent behind it is going to know this person's not asking to try to sabotage. They're asking because they want to know that we've considered all possible options, to make the most reasonable decision possible. And then at the end of the day, still, even going through the process that you mentioned, you'll still disappoint someone, but you at least know that you weren't bullheaded and didn't ignore information that probably shouldn't have been, ignored. So
Yeah, and especially the side of the aisle that you don't agree with. Those are the people you need to talk to the most.
agreed.
So you can understand their side. Um, as much as I don't like our former president, like I'm not upset with the people that voted him in. I want to speak to them. I want to understand, like,
Hmm.
why do you feel that way about this policy decision? What is the reason behind it? Maybe there's some credibility there. Maybe there's not. You know what I mean? But asking the
Yeah.
questions, I think it holds us all accountable. It makes our answers a lot sharper and better. Not being questioned and not asking the questions, that leads to a lot of fucking problems.
Yeah. And I think politically speaking, if you're looking at like the two-party system that we have right now, you said it well earlier where like you're talking about how like everybody's pretty evenly divided where it's just like you're either like really hard left, you're really hard right. There is no nuance to anything anymore. Everything's black or white. This side's great, that side sucks. Like it's, you know, this real black and white crap, and reality is that's just not really the case. But um I don't know. I try to understand both sides, like you said, and we wouldn't have gotten this far in our country without having differing viewpoints. And I'll be the first, maybe not the first to say, probably not. But I definitely think it's like, do I think Democrats have all the answers? Hell no. Do
No.
I think Republicans know everything? No, I don't. But I do think each side of the political spectrum has their pros and their cons. And the tough thing I think is just people trying to find that middle ground without feeling like they're just compromising their moral values. I don't know. At least that's kind of where I see it because like people don't like to always say they're like a moderate because then it's like, oh, you're just neutral. You don't take a stance on anything. At least that's kind of how I look at it anyways. And so I think today we make it a lot harder to get people to have those open conversations
But you
and
just
make
hit
their
on
own
something
opinion.
really important. You just hit on something really important without intending to do so, I think.
Okay.
Uh, you said, you know, what did you say about saying that you're moderate? Like you have a problem saying that, or people have a problem hearing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's part of the problem. Like, why is that a problem? Like,
Yeah. It shouldn't be.
it's become a problem because we have to wear one jersey or the other jersey, and there's no room for the
Yeah.
middle. Like that's a problem. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it's okay. Okay, for me, for example, like, I don't care how people I don't mind sharing my political beliefs. Like when it comes to
Right.
social issues like gay rights,
Hmm.
trans rights, just human kindness and understanding, I'm very left-minded.
Right.
I'm very on the side of liberals because the Republicans are giving me no fucking other alternative when it comes
Right.
to that. Now, when it comes to border control, I think both sides have points. Like
Hmm.
Republicans are not making it up that we have people crossing the border every day illegally. That's a reality. Like,
Yep.
and the fact that Democrats try to act like it doesn't exist is part of the problem.
Yep.
So you're ignoring a lot of people that live on the border and have to deal with this shit in their backyard. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
and that's not to say that we should lack humanity in addressing quote unquote illegal aliens. Like, you can still address those people with humanity. I don't like the way Republicans talk about them or how, they're just trying to survive.
Hmm.
So if their country is being taken over by fascists or communists, of course they're going to try to leave and take care of their kids and get to a better place. You would
Hmm.
expect nothing less from your own people. So let's talk about them with some dignity and humanity. So I think both sides suck on this conversation about border control. And then with the fiscal stuff, I think liberals can be too pie in the sky about the reality of the
Hmm.
fiscal nature of the country. Like you can't, not everything about capitalism is bad. Not everything about capitalism is great. There's pros and
Hmm.
cons to each financial system. So now you got to pick which one is the best of the bunch. And it might be that you had to pick the best worst case scenario. You know what I mean? Like that might be the reality. You can't have a utopia. It doesn't fucking exist and it will never fucking exist because humans are in control. That's part of the problem.
Yep. We're
So
flawed.
yeah, we're flawed and we all have our own motivations and we're all pulling in different directions. How do you think this is going to work? Like, you know what I mean? So, like,
Hmm.
there's no party for me, really. Like, when it comes to social stuff like gay rights and trans rights, that I'm so clearly on one side. But this
Hmm.
other stuff, I'm kind of in the middle. I can't, like, both sides are not talking to each other and they're so far apart. Like,
Yep.
they're not making sense anymore. You know what I mean? So, and abortion is a can of worms I don't even want to touch right now.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Starship Troopers. No real segue to get into that subject,
Yeah.
but no, I can say like I really wish people just as a whole were more comfortable talking about politics with it becoming like a blood match. Just people trying to kill each other over it, basically. Um, I'm a I don't even know if this is gonna tie in, but I'm gonna try. So I listen to a lot of comedians and George Carlin, he's one of my
Mm,
favorites. He's the GOAT for me.
same. I
And
agree.
um he just has a brilliant thing where he's talking about how like, words themselves don't really mean shit. Like it's just all about the context of it. It's all about how they're applied and used and things like that. And I don't know, I'm trying to tie this back into politics because even if I'm hearing something that is completely polar opposite of what I believe morally, I might not agree with the policy. I might think that it's just outright stupid. If I'm hearing a person at least take the time to, really think about what it is they're saying and they're trying to like respectfully lay it out towards me, I don't have to agree with it, but I can still at least treat them with the respect that I think that they deserve and hear them out. And whether or not it sways my opinion is kind of up to me. Like I'm not saying like they have to try to convince me or anything like that, but I'm just big on like the golden rule. It's like I want to treat people how I want to be treated. And I know that I'm big on conversation and listening to people from all different walks of life and things like that. And so just with the subject of politics, I just think it's more paramount now than ever that we have to allow people to be comfortable to have these conversations and not make them feel afraid or not make them feel like, oh, we're going to marginalize you or treat you like shit because you said something that, is not, politically correct or popular. I don't think we're going to really get to the meat of anything without people having that understanding of things. And again, that might be a little soapboxy right there, but hopefully I had a
Yeah,
point. I think I did.
yeah, yeah. But, you know, going back to Verhoeven, like the fact that we're so out in left field,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I think that this movie has like grown since its release in its metaphors and themes. I think it's more true now than it was when it was released, and I think that's a sign of a good movie.
I actually think it's probably a movie I need to see more than once. Honestly, just because I feel like there is like you said, there's some of those metaphors that are in there and things that you kind of have to pick up on like more than after just watching it one time. Because I'll
Yeah.
be honest too, like this movie, I watched it in chunks. Not gonna lie, I've been busy lately, so like I watched it in like I think like four different sittings, like 20, 30
Oh,
minute. I know. I'm not proud of
that's
myself for
okay.
that.
It's like
Like I
watching
had
a
to,
TV show.
yeah, I had to do it, but it's not the way to go. It would have been better.
Honestly, I don't think you're wrong because the movie is kind of in chunks. Okay, it's sort of like this. It starts off as like a high school rom com
It
with
does.
the with
They're
like
all
the
gonna
football
graduate and they
player.
got big hopes and dreams.
Yeah, and like he's against his dad, and his dad doesn't want him to serve, and like like I don't know. And then you have the fucking what's the Kubrick film? Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, yeah,
You had the Full Metal Jacket thing where they go off to boot camp,
yeah.
right, or training for the pilot. You had that aspect of the movie, and then you had the war. So I do think there's like three acts of this where you could just break it up and like, okay, let's watch the first half hour where it's about the high school drama. Then
Yeah.
let's watch the Full Metal Jacket part, and then let's watch the Saving Private Ryan part. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that was his intention, Verhoeven, but like that's how it feels.
I actually always got reminded a little bit of Starship Troopers when I watched the movie Edge of Tomorrow. Probably just because of
Yeah,
like their military getup and the fact that they're also just kind of killing giant alien bug things.
yeah,
Though
yeah.
that one's much more serious. It's not nearly as campy. I always actually wish there was a sequel to that movie, but
That movie's great. I really like it. It's
yeah,
been a while.
they actually just released it recently on 4K. Which I don't know. Like, do you collect physical media? Do you do anything
I
like that?
do, but it has to be something like I'm definitely gonna watch like more than once.
Yeah.
So like P.T. Anderson is my favorite current filmmaker, working filmmaker. So I have all his stuff on Blu-ray.
They don't, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't have his in 4K, right?
No,
Like,
I have the Criterion collection, so it's in
yeah,
Blu-ray. It's just in Blu-ray.
because I think even Licorice Pizza that only got a Blu-ray release. It didn't even get a 4K.
Now that one I don't have yet,
Okay,
but
I
yeah,
still
but
haven't seen that.
it's so good.
Yeah, I haven't seen
Oh,
Magnolia either. You're gonna kill me, but I haven't seen it.
you
It's on my
should.
I have it. It's on my
It
shelf.
holds up. It holds up.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah, much
Um,
like Starship Troopers.
Curious final thought on just the director of this movie. Is this your favorite movie by him? Or do you have like did you like Total Recall or anything else that he's
And
done?
I really love Benedetta, the new one. I've
See,
only
I
seen it
haven't
once.
I'm gonna look up this movie. How do you spell it? Ben
Benedetta.
Benedetta.
Yeah, Detta. Detta.
Okay, I know Charlotte Rampling because she was in Dune, if I am not mistaken. She has a brief part in that. And let me see. I'm just looking at this movie. There's like a nun on it. Okay. Very cool. I should probably look up what this movie's about first before I start talking about it. Okay, so it says the story of this movie is a 17th century nun becomes entangled in a forbidden lesbian affair. Okay. But it's her shocking religious visions that threaten to shake the church to its very core. Oh shit. Okay. I'm just reading that. I'm like, that sounds heavy.
Oh, it's so good. I really loved it. I know it's a bit divisive.
Is it just because of obviously the fact that they're putting in a gay relationship into the context of religion? Like
I'm sure.
I I can only
I'm,
imagine. I
I'm
mean,
sure
this
it
is
ruffled some feathers.
he's been ruffling feathers though. Verhoeven has been. I mean, shit, probably since the beginning. You know,
Oh
people
yeah,
thought RoboCop was brutal. Showgirls, of course, we know all the shit with that.
yeah.
Trying to think, I've never seen this movie, and it's recent too.
There's a lot of sex in his films.
There's a lot of sex. Is that what you said?
Yeah, from the beginning and all
Yeah,
the way through, even now to Benedetta. Like, and Starship Troopers has its own sex scene. So
yeah, it does. Yeah, there is actually a fair amount of nudity in the movie. Not that I give a shit. I don't really care.
no, I don't either.
It takes a lot to really ruffle my feathers for this. But okay, quick plug for this Vendetta movie. Why should I watch it? Besides, like you just saying, it's really good.
Oh, I think it's an incredible examination of martyrdom and how it begins, and much like
What does that mean? I'm sorry to sound dumb, but what is martyrdom? Or is that what you said?
yeah, someone who's gonna fall on the cross. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Is that like the because there's other ways of say I mean, I know what you're saying, but it's like someone that's like extremely devout, right? It's like
Yep.
they're like, almost like a zealot, right?
Yeah.
Where like they're just like the word is everything and they don't
Yeah.
question anything.
Well, it's about the
Y-
suffering as well. Like they're addicted to the suffering of this thing for a greater cause.
I've never understood that, but I also haven't done enough research to like justify talking in depth about it, but yeah, I don't know about that. That's kind of crazy. I shouldn't say crazy. Someone's gonna be listening to that and be like, that don't call them crazy.
And I think
Uh,
it's an examination of how,
it's got a really good score on Rotten Tomatoes.
yeah, how religion views sexuality and it pushes the boundaries of that, obviously.
Is this a is that a foreign language film? Because it looks like it's a French film.
Yes.
That's what it's
Yes, it
saying.
is. If I
Okay,
remember right. Yeah. Yeah, it's all in
interesting.
French.
Oh shit, man! I'm gonna have to add this to the queue. I'm sorry. I'm down the rabbit hole in this movie.
It's all
I'm
good.
looking at some reviews for it. Everybody really likes this movie. Some people
Uh,
are saying it's controversial. Ooh,
I would say that it is. If you're a Catholic, especially.
ooh, Isola's a Catholic. Should I have her watch it?
Hell yeah, why not?
I was like, I don't. We haven't really like. I don't know if you do like this with your wife, but it's like, do you ever like, watch a movie that like you think you like she'll have like a divisive opinion about, or like she'll like, it'll upset her or anything like that? Like, do you push the boundaries like with her, or do you just let her watch like kind of like, hey, just like watch whatever you want?
So, yes, but probably not in the way that you mean. And what I'm saying is, so I'm a huge horror fan, right?
Yeah.
And she is very much not.
Okay.
And one of the first movies I took her to the theaters to see, and knowing that she doesn't like horror movies, is Us, Jordan
Okay.
Peele's Us.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And she had her head buried in my armpit like half the movie. So that was a learning lesson for me because it really wasn't worth it. Like she wasn't comfortable. She made me uncomfortable because she wasn't comfortable. So
Yeah.
you just kind of learn like it's not really worth it. Like subjecting her to that shit. But for me, it was so I had this story as a kid where like I was really scared of heights for a long time. And the way I got over it was just by getting on roller coaster after roller coaster after roller coaster until I just got numb to it.
Okay.
And in my head, that's just how you deal with it. And man, I'm going to give a lot away about myself right now. Like one of the things I was scared of too when I was a kid was learning how to swim, like going in the deep end of a pool.
Okay.
And one time my mom pretended like her back was hurting or something. She was bent over on the side of the pool, like, oh my God, I'm in pain. What's wrong? And as soon as I touched her and was like, what's going on, mom? She threw me in the deep end.
Oh, she
And,
tricked you.
yeah. And she goes, swim or drown.
Oh shit. How old were you?
uh, 11, 10, something like this.
Oh
She
Jesus.
knew that I knew how to swim, though. That's the thing. Because in the shallow end, I would swim just fine, knowing that I
Mm,
could touch the bottom. It was just a mental thing that I needed to get over. And I'm not saying this is how parenting should be done. I'm
right.
just saying, just I'm giving a lot of insight into who I am. Like if I'm gonna overcome something, it's gonna be by exposure.
That makes
So
sense.
uh, in my head, everyone does it this way. So so with my wife, I was like, "Oh, you don't like horror films? It's just because you need to see more." And then
Mm,
you'll understand the mechanics behind horror films. You'll kind of know when the jump scares are coming. You'll feel it, like, and it has stopped bothering you so much. But that's just
hmm.
not the case. Like, she's not this person, right? And it was the
Yeah.
same. It's the same with my wife about roller coasters. By the way, she fucking hates them. And I've tried to drag her onto more than one roller coaster. The last time I did it was the final time I'll ever try to drag her on a roller coaster because she got all the way to the front. I got in, buckled the seat down. She goes, "Okay, bye," and like took the fuck off. And like I was like, "Son of a bitch."
Jesus, no.
So it's not, you know what I mean? Like not everybody. This is just,
Yeah.
everyone is
You have to know how you're wired and that not everybody's going to be like thinking the
exactly,
same thought process behind it as you.
exactly because just like this movie, people are not one note. Like people are nuanced.
No. Yes. I was going to say that's actually a perfect ending point to talk about this movie is that I do think you could watch it and be like, people are definitely not that one dimensional.
No,
Especially like military people, because like some movies definitely paint them out to be, but it's like hell no, they're not. Like they're
no,
complex. Like they're in
definitely
it,
not.
and there's all kinds of different jobs in the military that aren't involving shooting and spraying bugs in the face. Um, One thing I was gonna say, just on the subject of horror movies, because one, I feel like maybe you have mentioned that you're a horror fan before, but I don't know if I don't know if I like just wasn't listening before because I got to talk about a horror movie then, like with you at some point.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I just watched one recently. It's not a horror film. I definitely call it more suspense thriller. But have you seen The Black Phone yet with Ethan
I
Hawke?
haven't, but I love Ethan Hawke.
Dude, it was good. I gotta admit it was good. And I like Scott Derrickson. It was nice to see him reteam with him. Like I won't like go on to like a full discussion on it because I just watched it
Sinister.
a couple days ago. But it's worth checking out. Like I had sweaty palms watching the movie, and that doesn't happen often.
I'm definitely gonna watch it this week because I've had it on the list for a while and I need to watch it. You're the second person to tell me to watch it.
Okay, well, it's pretty good. So I don't know. Maybe if you watch it, we could talk about that. But that's not like true horror though. It's not. It's like it's like a kidnapping suspense kind of thriller
Yeah,
thing. So
thriller. Yeah,
what do you think of like horror? Like what do you actually find scary? Do you find anything scary?
and psychological stuff. It's not
Oh
like
shit, yeah.
it's not the physical stuff. It's the psychological, like mental side of it. I think horror films say more about humans than any other genre of film because what we fear, like we can relate to each other by what we fear. Even if
Mm-hmm.
you don't fear that thing, you can relate to it in some way. So I just say I think when we finally cease to exist and aliens find all these movies like sitting on shelves, like if they watch horror films, they're gonna learn a lot about human beings, like what we were fucking scared of, like, and it could be anything. It could be spiders. It could be alien invasion, which haha fun.
Yeah.
Or it could be like we thought that apparitions were a thing and like they would like open doors on their own, or like we were worried about shit like this. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think it says more than like countless rom coms.
I need to watch more because horror films, just as a whole, they're interesting in that like there is kind of like a subset of movie people like they really gravitate behind them as a genre, and I'd say more so than like other genres. Like you don't see the same kind of following for like you said like rom coms or certain dramas, independent films. Like horror movies really have their own audience. Um, and I feel like I've watched a lot of horror movies, but not as much as I think. Like I've seen like the popular ones, but I haven't watched like some of like the really messed up ones, especially foreign films. Like there's some really like creepy foreign
Oh,
films I've heard about. Like I
some of the
saw The
best horror
Devil.
films are
I heard
foreign.
that's a good one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've seen like it's not a horror movie. I was about to say Old Boy for some reason, but that's not really horror. That's just like creepy, especially the end of it.
It has
Is
some
that is that your
horror-ish
cat? Is
scenes.
that a
That is
cat?
my cat. I'm so sorry. Give me
No,
one
it's
second.
no, it's cool. Okay. All right, Bruce is going to get his cat, I think. Might make an introduction on this podcast. Let's see. He's coming back. Oh,
Sorry
see,
about
I
that.
thought I thought you were gonna bring back the cat.
No, no, no. He was wanting to get out of the room. That was the issue.
Okay, man. You got any other thoughts on Starship Troopers?
Um, I mean, what's your rating overall?
That's a good question.
You can shit on it if you want. I'm cool with it.
No, because dude, like I didn't not like the movie. It's campy as shit,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
and there's some obviously very satirical sides to it, and sometimes satire works for me, sometimes it doesn't. I think because I'm already a fan of the filmmaker and I still like that he has a point of view, like that helps for the movie not just being like mindless shooting of monsters. Like I still felt like it was trying to say something. Again, like especially with like the military propaganda pieces, I think I like that aspect of the movie probably the most. Um, but is it going to be a movie that I'm going to go back to and watch 1,000 times? Probably not. So let's see. Out of a scale of like 1 to 10, I'll just do that because everybody does this a little bit differently. It's like a 6.8 to a 7.2. I'll put it somewhere in that
I
ballpark.
think I'm there with you. I think
Like
I'm right
right
there with
about
you.
right about there. I know it's like kind of a cop out because I'm not giving like a firm, but it's like it's right. It's not average, but it's like not like wow, like that's amazing either. But I
No,
appreciate
yeah.
it.
I think giving it an 8 would be too high, right? So like
I don't think
anything
so.
like 7 to 7.5.
Okay.
I think because of the themes and the stuff that still holds up really well, and
I mean,
the
we're talking about this movie 20 years after the fact, so that's usually a good sign.
yeah, 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 and the fact that it kind of like without intending to do so, sort of imagine a world post 9/11.
True.
So I just think that like, but the other aspects of it too, like I don't think all the acting is all that great. Like I agree
Mhm.
with you, but they're put there to serve a purpose, and they serve their purpose. Like you're not going to give an Oscar out for any of these performances. Um, I don't think you're going to give an Oscar out for like this. I don't remember the score, to be honest with you. It doesn't stick in my head at all.
No. Yeah, usually like if yeah, if the score is really good, it's almost like a character in the movie. Like you remember it that much. But no, I can't think of
Yeah.
it off the top for this one.
What I will say is the sort of world building really works well. I
Hmm.
think you know where we are. Like you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like it doesn't feel like it's referencing other films like, oh, they did it this way, let's just kind of do what they did. It doesn't feel that way to me. It
Oh
feels like its
yeah.
own thing.
Yeah, I do appreciate it for that. I mean, any science fiction movie that can differentiate itself from its own, and like you said, like you feel like there's some lore behind the things, that definitely helps. And you feel like there's a history, like with how long the humans have been fighting the bugs, and everything like that. But
Oh,
yeah,
speaking of which, I do have something. Hey, what
yes.
do you think? I don't know enough about the book. I don't know if the book is set in Buenos Aires, but like,
Mm.
what did you think about the whitewashing, the whitewashing of Argentina, modern day like Buenos Aires?
Well, it's certainly not culturally appropriate. I
Yeah,
mean, for
like I
sure.
was I was thinking about my wife, and I was like, what if this was in São Paulo, which isn't too far down the road, and
Nope.
it was like all these Americans like walking around, like owning the city, gentrifying the shit out of it. Like
You
I don't
know,
know.
maybe it's just one of those things where like when they're doing like casting for it, they're just like, we can't find enough culturally diverse people, but we got a lot of white people sitting around, so like we'll just have to make do. Maybe it wasn't done out of racist intentions. I don't know.
But that's the question though. Like, was their intent?
Yeah.
Did Verhoeven have intent? Like, or was it just what you just said, like convenience?
Let
But
me
I just found
see.
it interesting that they set the film in Buenos Aires and like there's no representation.
I'm like literally typing this in right now. I put whitewashing Starship Troopers Buenos Aires just to see if anybody's talking about this.
20
Uh
years later, 25 years later.
Let me. Okay. Well, I just found a blog from 2012. It's just titled "Erasing the Brown: Whitewashing of Latino Characters in Film," and it does look like Starship Troopers is cited in this blog. Not
As
that
it
that means
probably
anything. It's like I don't know if this is prominent, but
it probably should be pointed out.
yeah, they're talking about it on there. Let me see if there's anything else that talks about this. They're just talking. Oh, the anti-fascism of Starship Troopers. I'm seeing that. Because yeah, that's what you were talking about, how it's like saying like fascism is bad and we really don't want to get closer to that becoming a reality. So Starship Troopers definitely nailed that message.
Mhm.
Oh, and the last one I'll say is we got 17 notorious cases of Hollywood whitewashing in photos. Oh man, some of these photos are bad. Uh, Let me see some of the good ones here. Of course, they cited one of my favorites, was his John Wayne as Genghis Khan. I mean, that's phenomenal. Mickey Rooney as
Yeah,
Mr. Yanushi, Breakfast
breakfast.
at
Yeah,
Tiffany's.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty
That one,
doable.
that one always gets
Oh,
brought
actually,
up.
I always kind of forget about this one, but Alec Guinness in Lawrence of Arabia, because he is definitely not
True.
Arab. That's for sure.
Well, he's not
Um,
supposed to be, right?
well, they're saying that he's
I
supposed to be
honestly,
playing in this article. It's been a minute since I've seen it. It's saying that he plays a real life leader in the Arab revolt against the Ottoman Empire.
okay, I stand corrected.
So apparently, this is according to the rap. So I'll cite my sources. But
I stand corrected then.
I also forgot about Jake Gyllenhaal in the Prince of Persia movie. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it's Persia. Al Pacino, Scarface, Johnny Depp, Lone Ranger. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This one's just saying the entire cast of Exodus Gods and Kings, the Ridley Scott movie. That's fair because even I remember like when like Edgerton, whatever, like when I saw the trailer for that and he's like the Pharaoh, I was like, oh, okay, like that's interesting. I don't know. Oh, and then yep, and then they're saying actually. the offender in this article is Casper Van Dien as Johnny Rico. That's what they're saying.
He's not the only one. They all have Latino names.
Because he's supposed to be Filipino. Yeah, okay.
What?
That's what it's saying. Yeah, because it's yeah, so it says while Johnny
Oh.
Rico was Filipino and named Juan in the military sci-fi novel, it says Verhoeven deliberately made Rico and the entire main cast white as part of his effort to turn that novel into a brutal satire of fascism, propaganda, and the way xenophobia is used to fuel pro-war patriotism.
Okay, so he did have intent. Okay.
I mean, according to this article, it's not from him, but
Yeah, yeah, that's
it's
true.
from
That's
someone
true.
watching the movie and thinking it.
To be fair, I don't think if that was part of his point, I don't think he did that any service because I don't think we hit on that
No,
enough.
no,
Because
probably
honestly,
not.
Buenos Aires in the movie could be anywhere. It could be fucking New York City for all I know. Like I have no idea.
There's
Like the
nothing
only
that really sets it as
no,
Buenos
the
Aires.
only
Yeah.
reason we know is because they say it. Like, oh, back home in Buenos Aires, they just got bombed. Remember that part? So it's like, wait, what the fuck?
I'm even like I'm kind of like looking at images like from the movie in that scene, and yeah, I mean, even like architecturally speaking, there's nothing really that stands out that's like that's that. But then I feel the argument that the filmmaker could cop out behind is, well, it's the future.
It's
We
the
don't know what
future,
Buenos
yeah.
Aires looks like. Like
If you
it
did
looks
the
like
future,
anything.
if you did future Manhattan, it would look different as well. So like, but at the same time, I don't think he gives any lip service to, not even lip service to gentrification at all. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I don't know. This is interesting. I'm gonna have to read up on this more later. But Bruce, I don't have anything else to say on Starship Troopers. I mean, I hope we covered it as much as you wanted to. I feel like I gotta watch it a little bit more and not in 20-minute chunks over a week. That I hate doing that for movies. Like I gotta just complain about that for a second. I hate it because it's not a TV show. It's not designed to be paused. And I
It's
could go
not.
and I could go on a big soapbox about this, sir, and I won't on this podcast because I don't want to come off as like an angry man. But
Well,
I
did you
get
see
like,
what James Cameron said recently?
what did he say recently?
He was like, I don't care if you stop my movie, meaning the Avatar movie, because
Yeah, I did
it's
see his comment on that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So if James Cameron thinks it's okay to pause your movie, then
and that's the
who,
thing, man. Like I love James Cameron, I do,
who am I
but
to argue?
I don't agree with his opinion on that just because filmmaking as a medium, it's designed to be sat through in one experience. I think nothing's worse for me than if I'm at a movie theater watching something I've never seen and I got to take a piss like 30 minutes in. That's the worst.
Oh
I
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like cuz like I know like there's some scenes in the movie that are inconsequential, but it's
But
like
there shouldn't be.
no, they're like everything should be intentional.
The counterpoint to James Cameron saying it's okay if you go and take a piss during my movies, like, okay, then how about you edit that motherfucker down to where it's not 3.5 hours? If you personally feel like some things can be missed, then cut it out.
Yeah,
Like,
cuz then I don't have to take a piss.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that
circular
just
reasoning.
yeah, I don't like that. And my biggest thing behind it is like okay, think about this. And I know you've been there when you're watching a movie.
Yeah.
Think of the times where like you've seen a movie where like something super emotional just happened to a character that you've been following for an hour, right? And I don't know, let's say they're dying. And okay, like for instance, perfect scene. You talked about Saving Private Ryan earlier, remember? So you know when Giovanni Ribisi like he gets it and he starts like crying mama and they're like giving him morphine. I'm not trying to joke about it. It's a super sad moment in the movie. But that'd be like me like pausing it like midway, like as I'm feeling the height of this emotion and just being like, I gotta go take a shit and go cook some popcorn. I'll pop this back on in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, and all the momentum is lost.
All the momentum's gone.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all
yeah,
gone.
yeah. And then you
I,
view the movie very differently.
yeah, no, it's not meant to be viewed that way. And I'm shit. I'm sorry. I might come off bad. Hold it. I
Yeah,
mean, if a movie's good enough, I'll hold it. I'll hold it.
that's true.
I'll break my damn bladder if the movie's
That's
good
true.
enough.
That's true.
I know I'm not everybody though. I love movies, so I'm willing to put through the go through the pain. But Yeah, just don't pause it. Don't listen to James Cameron. I love James
Also,
Cameron, but
also he needs to listen to himself. Like that circular reasoning of just like, oh yeah, I can make a 3.5 hour movie, and you can pause and go take a piss. Like, okay, well, if the scene is inconsequential, then take it out, and then we don't have to sit through 3.5 hours, like, and
yeah.
hold our fucking bladder. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep, I
So,
agree. I'll be really curious. We have to wrap this up here, but I'll be really curious how this new one does. Honestly, I mean, I really
well,
will.
so if he's taking the fascistic view of a filmmaker and not and has a bunch of yes men that won't tell him to edit out a 3.5 hour movie, then
I
not
mean,
to
hey,
be all star,
the
not to
first
be all
one made a lot of
starship,
money, Bruce.
not
Like,
to be all Starship Troopers about it, but maybe he needs some more questioning around the room, the table.
I think it's interesting that I know that he filmed 2 and 3 back to back, and I know like those are pretty much in the can. I feel like he's worked on 4 a little bit, but I don't really know, and I know he has plans for the 5th one, but I don't honestly know right now. Like I'm a little skeptical if he'll be able to actually complete that grand master plan of having like 5 Avatar movies. I Right
Maybe.
now I can't see it, but it's like if it's really compelling, because that's the thing with James Cameron is like the guy's defied expectations before. I mean, he's got a track record. Like I remember when Titanic was being made, everybody thought that thing was gonna bomb. Like
Can I
everybody
can I
did.
can I
Yes,
own up and say that I'm not a huge fan of any of his movies?
you're just not. No.
Not really. I think it's a lot of spectacle.
I
But
mean, he is a spectacle filmmaker for sure. I mean, he has big set pieces
but
in
there's
most
no
of his movies.
substance. There's no substance in my opinion. Like Titanic, there's nothing there for me to cling on to.
Your heart does not go on.
It does not. And and Avatar, like it's a retelling of
What like the what
historic
was it like the Fern Gully thing,
with
Pocahontas,
the
like all that
Pocahontas. It's a
Dances with
retelling of
Wolves.
stories we've already gotten, which is, I mean, that's one way to do spectacle is just to retell a story and name it something different.
Right.
I don't know. It's just not working for me, man. Like, do you really want to revisit the world of Avatar? Like, I don't
I
really
do.
care.
I do, man. I'm a big fan.
Ah, okay, this is
I
me.
think I think for myself though, and like I might have a different lens on it than some people do because I love filmmaking so much and I love the craft behind it and the imagination. I think when it comes to Avatar, that's kind of more what I get behind. Is like I see there's definitely simplistic story beats, and I'm not going to pretend that James Cameron is some Shakespearean screenwrite. Like, no, not really. Some of his dialogue can just be flat out bad. I
Yeah,
know this.
clunky, clunky.
But I do always appreciate that he's pushing the envelope with his technology. I appreciate that there's so much thought behind the creatures and like the world itself, kind of going back to that world building, like everything has thought behind it, and I like that. So I
Mhm.
think sometimes I get a little bit blinded by that because I do just like that sort of a spectacle where I'm like, wow, like look at all this beautiful artwork that's on display and things like that. So yes, it's for me it's definitely more on like the vision aspect
No,
of it
like
where,
I
like
agree with
I'm
you.
gonna have like it's like this is gonna be like a what do you call it? Candy for my eyeballs. Like
I agree with you. Like I've seen
it might
every
not
single.
satisfy me on a deep core, it might not, but damn it, I could use that as a reference disc on my 4K TV and be like, holy shit, look how good that looks.
Yeah, like I agree with you. Like I've watched all of his movies. I went to the theater to see the ones that I could while I was like, I mean, some of his stuff, obviously, I'm not old enough to have seen in the theater, but like
Yeah.
they're definitely like worth going to watch once, but I
Hmm.
just never revisit them. I have no interest in revisiting
Hey, respect. Respect,
them.
man.
Yeah.
I try to think because I've watched Titanic. I know it's getting a 4K release. Same with Avatar, which I've been waiting for that one for a while. I can't believe it didn't happen sooner. Um, but I'm trying to think like what's tell you a James Cameron movie I haven't seen in a long time is True Lies. It's been
I
a
haven't,
long time since I've
yeah,
seen
it's been
that.
I would say it's been 25 years since I've seen that, if not longer.
Hmm. Well, only time will tell to see what happens. I doubt he's going to change your mind with the second one. It's like if he didn't get on
Probably
board with that
not.
first one, it's probably just going to be more of the same. I mean, I guess there's like he has like an adopted son that he raises like a blue person, if that does anything for you.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Anyways, I appreciate you coming on here, Bruce. Really do.
Eh, thank
I
you.
hope you enjoy the time talking about Starship Troopers.
I
I
did.
definitely think the next time that we have you on, we'll have to talk about a horror movie, maybe even The Black Phone, because
Maybe.
I need to talk about that movie with somebody.
I'll watch it this week.
I'm gonna rapid fire question you quick. What's your favorite horror movie if you had to say? And
The
I hate the and
Shining.
that the Shine. Yeah, I've talked about it on my podcast once before. It's a ways back in the podcast. You can go back
Yeah.
and listen to it, but fantastic movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, sir. I
All
will let
right.
you go, but I appreciate it once again. Thanks everybody for listening. I'll catch y'all on the next episode.
All right, man.
Peace out. See you, Bruce.
Later.
Bye bye.